My grandfather never called himself a prepper, but he knew how to survive a winter without power. He grew his own food, canned it by the dozen, and he heated the house with wood he chopped himself. If the lights went out, he didn't panic. He lit a lantern. If money got tight, he bartered eggs for flour. No apps, no credit, no excuses. Back then, that kind of self-reliance wasn't special. It was expected. Today, many of us are waking up to how fragile modern life really is. And that's why more preppers are turning back to the skills our grandparents took for granted. In this video, we're exploring the old ways, the survival skills that kept past generations alive long before electricity, supermarkets, or the internet. From growing food and preserving meat, to crafting tools and treating injuries with what nature provides, these aren't tricks. They're the original blueprint for long-term survival. Let's take a closer look at what our ancestors knew and why their knowledge could save your life today. Talking about the old ways doesn't mean we're chasing the past. It means we're learning from it, holding on to the skills that once kept entire generations alive. For preppers, the old ways mean putting knowledge ahead of gear. They're about doing what your grandparents did without thinking twice. Growing your own food, preserving what you harvest, fixing tools instead of tossing them, hunting and foraging when supplies run low. These weren't survival tactics, they were just life. Back then, every family had someone who knew how to stitch a wound, salt meat for the winter, or build a fence from scratch. That wisdom wasn't optional, it was passed down because your survival depended on it. Today, preppers turn back to those same skills for a reason. High-tech tools break, batteries die, and supply chains collapse. But what you carry in your head, your hands-on experience, doesn't fail, and that's the heart of it. The old ways aren't some backup plan, they're a mindset. They teach resilience, independence, and the confidence to handle hard times with or without help. Reviving these skills reconnects us to something real, something tested by time. And when systems fall apart and the store shelves go bare, you'll be one step ahead because you chose to learn what they knew. One of the foundations of the old ways is growing your own food. Our grandparents didn't garden for fun, they did it to survive. They grew vegetables, kept chickens for eggs and meat, and raised rabbits because they were efficient and reliable protein. During the Great Depression and World War II, this kind of backyard farming wasn't rare, it was normal. Almost every home had a garden, fruit trees, and small livestock. Rabbits were especially popular because they convert feed to meat far more efficiently than cows. And that mindset is making a comeback. During the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a surge in people raising hens and planting gardens. A 2001 article in The Guardian called it an explosion in interest in the simple life, with families leaving the city to grow their own food and reconnect with the land. If the grocery store closed tomorrow, how many meals could you still put on the table? That question alone is why so many preppers return to the land. Because when things get tight, the ability to grow your own food isn't a luxury, it's survival. But growing food is just the beginning. You also need to think long-term, saving seeds, breeding animals, and working with heirloom varieties that don't rely on store-bought supplies. These practices aren't trendy, they're time-tested. That's why so many preppers today talk about building a survival garden, or keeping livestock at a bug-out location, a renewable food source when the shelves go empty. As one modern homesteader put it, everyone's used to buying their food. What happens when it's just not there anymore? The answer? You grow it, you raise it, just like our ancestors did. But what if you have to leave it all behind? Bugging out, leaving civilization behind when disaster strikes, only works if you know how to survive in the wild. That's where bushcraft comes in. The old school skills our ancestors once relied on every day. It's more than camping. It's fire without a lighter, shelter from forest scraps, clean water from wild sources, and navigating by sun, stars, or even memory. Try living off the land today, and you'll quickly see how much we've forgotten. As one anthropologist put it, most modern people would be utterly hopeless dropped into the woods, while our ancestors and indigenous tribes could track game, find food, and read the land like a map. Bushcraft revives that lost edge, not just for survival, but for confidence when everything else fails. Here are some key old-world wilderness survival skills that preppers value for bug-out scenarios. Making fire by hand. Before matches or lighters, fire was made by flint, steel, or friction. Simple tools mastered through practice. Striking a spark at just the right angle, building a dry tinder nest, it wasn't easy, but it worked. And when you're off-grid, fire means everything. Warmth, light, clean water, cooked food, and safety at night. That's why traditional survival courses still teach flint and steel firemaking, because it needs no fuel, no battery, just skill and the right materials. In a world without modern tools, that kind of knowledge lights the way. Wild food foraging. For thousands of years, humans survived by foraging, gathering plants, nuts, fruits, and fungi from the wild. They knew what to eat, what to avoid, and how to use nature as medicine. That deep plant knowledge was passed down for generations, and today, much of it is gone. Experts even call it one of the biggest losses in our survival toolkit. But for preppers, relearning the basics can be life-saving, like how to spot edible berries, identify safe mushrooms, or brew willow bark tea to ease pain and fever. This isn't just folk wisdom, it's old-world first aid. And in the wild, it might be all you have. Tracking and hunting. Before farming, hunting was survival. Our ancestors learned to track animals by spotting subtle clues, a broken twig, a faint footprint, a fresh trail of scat. Researchers say this kind of pattern recognition taps into the same brainpower used in modern medicine. Their tools? Bows, spears, slings, developed over millennia and refined by necessity. Today, some preppers still practice archery and trapping, not just for tradition, but for self-reliance. Unlike guns, bows don't need factory-made bullets. As one survival instructor put it, without ammo, your gun's just a club. That's why we still use the bow. Silent tools like snares and arrows also keep your location hidden, a real advantage when things get dangerous. In a real bug-out situation, knowing how to hunt or trap small game like rabbits or birds could keep you alive. And that confidence, knowing you can feed yourself if needed, is priceless. Just like the pioneer kids who brought home dinner with a homemade bow, some skills never stop being useful. Shelter building. If you had to spend the night outdoors, no tent, no gear, could you stay warm and dry? Our ancestors could. They knew how to turn branches, leaves, and bark into safe, weatherproof shelters. From simple lean-tos to full-on log cabins, they built with what was around them. No electricity, no blueprints, just skill and instinct. Even a pile of dry leaves stacked right could keep you insulated through a cold night. That's a classic debris hut. Old-school shelter building isn't just clever, it's life-saving. Take a lean-to, built with its back to the wind, and a fire placed out front to reflect heat inside? That's centuries-old wisdom. In colder climates, they went even further. Tanning hides into blankets or clothing was essential. Brain-tanned buckskin, for example, was warm, tough, and water-resistant. Traditional trades like carpentry, timber framing, thatching, and stone masonry weren't just crafts, they were survival. And while many of these skills are fading today, they offer blueprints for sustainable, off-grid living. Think dry stone walls that stand without cement, or cabins built entirely by hand with an axe and know-how. What's the bottom line? With a bit of knowledge and the right mindset, you can build a shelter almost anywhere, just like they did. No tent required. Natural navigation. Long before GPS, apps, or even paper maps, people crossed mountains, deserts, and oceans using nothing but nature as their guide. Ancient Polynesians navigated thousands of miles across the Pacific by reading stars and wave patterns. Desert travelers followed the sun and remembered landmarks burned into their memory. Australian Aboriginal elders passed down routes by telling stories around the fire, notching sticks to mark key turns. Back then, navigation was more than direction, it was survival. Reading moss on trees, tracking the sun's arc, using the North Star. These were everyday skills. Today, most people would be lost without a signal, but preppers who follow the old ways know better. They train with a compass and a topo map. Or they ditch tools entirely, learning to read terrain like our ancestors did. Because when the phone dies and the signal's gone, the only map you can trust is the one in your head. And that's what Bushcraft really is, using your environment instead of fighting it, turning the wilderness into an ally, not an enemy. One camper said it best after a week in the woods. We were hoping the power would stay off longer, just to keep practicing. Because once you learn the old ways, survival doesn't seem like fear, it starts to look like freedom. If you had to walk into the woods right now, no gear, no cell phone, could you survive a week? That's where Bushcraft comes in, the old school way of surviving off the land when there's no one coming to help. For preppers, bugging out in the wilderness isn't a fantasy, it's a backup plan. But that plan only works if you've got the right skills, the kind our ancestors used for thousands of years. Bushcraft is all about working with nature and not against it. It's knowing how to start a fire without a lighter, how to build a shelter with your hands, not a store-bought tent. It's finding water, food, and your way home with no electronics, no modern tools, just knowledge and instinct. Take fire, for example. Before lighters, people used flint and steel, or friction methods like the bow drill. It's definitely not easy, but it works, and it gives you heat, light, safe water, and protection. Then there's foraging. Our ancestors didn't buy supplements. They knew which plants healed and which ones fed you. Willow bark for fever, wild berries, edible roots. That kind of knowledge could save your life, and it's almost been lost. Tracking and hunting? Same story. Reading animal signs. Using a bow or trap instead of relying on bullets you can't replace. Quiet tools that feed you without drawing attention. And shelter? Even a pile of leaves or a lean-to built right can keep you alive through the night. Our ancestors knew how to build warm, dry homes without nothing but wood, stone, and skill. Navigation? No GPS needed. Just the sun, the stars, the moss on the trees, and memory. That's the kind of awareness you want when the phone signal's gone and the map's in your head. That kind of awareness doesn't come from apps. It comes from practice, just like every old world skill worth having. In the old days, if something's broke, you didn't toss it, you fixed it. You didn't wait for a delivery truck. You picked up your tools and got to work. That mindset is the heart of old world craftsmanship, self-reliance in action. From blacksmithing and woodworking to tanning hides and spinning wool, these skills allowed families to build, repair, and survive using only what nature and their own hands could provide. They didn't need plastic, packaging, or power tools, just knowledge and time. And that's what makes these crafts valuable today. They're sustainable, durable, proven. You're not just learning how to make a tool or patch a boot. You're reclaiming a piece of human history. Even mainstream voices are catching on. One article put it plainly. Skills like tanning, wheel making, and soap crafting might be the key to a sustainable future. Because when the grid goes down or the shelves go empty, mass production won't save you, but skill will. And that's why many preppers see themselves not just as survivors, but as stewards, keeping these old ways alive. Some even build off-grid communities where these crafts are a part of daily life, like a modern village built on 19th century know-how. And in a world full of shortcuts, that's a rare kind of strength. Quick break. If you're still watching, it means you're one of the few who gets it. You understand that the world can change overnight, that being prepared isn't paranoia, it's responsibility. My mission is simple, to help as many people as possible wake up and gear up. If you believe in that too, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm that this message matters. And subscribe, not for me, but to help spread the mindset that one day could save a life. Let's build a community of people who aren't waiting to be rescued. Let's spread the word and stay one step ahead. Right, back to the video. When there's no doctor, no ER, no pharmacy down the road, what you know might be all you have. Old world survival wasn't just about food and shelter. It also meant treating injuries and illnesses with what nature offered. Herbs, folk remedies, and basic first aid were essential. Garlic and honey cleaned wounds. Willow bark eased fever. Chamomile helped you sleep. Most of this knowledge was passed down face to face, not from a book, but from a grandmother's hands. And a lot of it was specific to the land. Knowing what grows near you and how to use it isn't something you can Google in a blackout. That's why more preppers are picking up field guides, joining herbalism classes, or taking wilderness first aid training. Because if the healthcare system collapses, whether from a disaster, grid failure, or a simple overreach, you'll need to improvise. And old school medicine wasn't just about plants, it was about resourcefulness. Boiled water to clean wounds, moonshine as a disinfectant, cloth and bark as makeshift bandages, clay and crushed leaves as natural poultices. Knowing how to do more with less, that's real preparedness. But the old ways don't just teach you how to survive. They shape how you think, how you act, who you become. There's something else the old ways teach, something no tool or stockpile can give you. They shape who you are. Baking bread from scratch, starting a fire by friction, tending a garden day after day. It's slow, demanding work. But when it pays off, it builds something inside you. Confidence, grit, calm under pressure. Modern life pushes speed and convenience. The old ways require patience, planning, and using what you've got. And that mindset is what gets you through a real crisis. Many preppers say these skills ease their fear of the future, because when you know you can handle things, you stop worrying so much about what might happen. You trade fear for action and anxiety for purpose. And there's something else too. Working with your hands, living closer to nature, gives you a kind of peace you don't get from a screen or a desk job. In a world that feels chaotic and out of control, the old ways offer something steady, a sense of direction, a sense of purpose. In the end, knowledge is only as powerful as your ability to pass it on. That's why so many seasoned preppers see the old ways not just as a set of survival skills, but as a legacy. If these skills die with one generation, they're gone for good. But if you teach them, they live on. They become part of a family's story, a culture's backbone, a nation's resilience. In the past, teaching happened naturally. Kids watched their parents work the land, mend tools, preserve food, treat wounds, and build shelters. They didn't need YouTube or manual, they held their elders. Learning was part of growing up. It was expected, and it happened side by side, hand in hand. That's something we've lost in today's world. Most kids today know more about touchscreens than they do about tools. They're growing up in a world of convenience, not consequence. If the power goes out or the internet goes down, most wouldn't know how to boil water or light a fire. That's not their fault, but it's our responsibility. Teaching the next generation the old ways start with simple exposure. Bring your kids or grandkids into the garden. Show them how to tell if a plant is ready to harvest. Let them stir the pot, tend the fire, build the shelter with you. They don't need to master it all in one day. They just need to feel the rhythm of it, the hands-on process of doing it for yourself. Many preppers are already doing this. They're raising kids who can butcher a chicken, knit a scarf, identify edible plants, or shoot a bow. Not because they want them to live in fear, but because they want them to be capable, calm, grounded, and ready. And here's the thing, kids love this stuff. Give a child a choice between a tablet and a hands-on bushcraft demo, and you might be surprised. Carving wood, cooking over a fire, finding wild berries, it awakens something primal. It gives them confidence and pride. It's learning with purpose. Some families even go further, turning these lessons into traditions. A weekly skills night, a monthly no-power challenge, summer camping trips where phones stay home. These small efforts add up, and over time, they build generational resilience. Remember, you don't have to be perfect to teach. You just have to be one step ahead and willing to share. In doing so, you're not only preparing your loved ones for hard times, you're preserving a way of life. The old ways aren't just survival tactics. They allow us to return to what's real. They reconnect us with the land, with each other, and with the quiet strength our ancestors carried every single day. When the systems fail and the noise dies down, it won't be the loudest or the flashiest who endure. It'll be the ones who remember what truly matters. The ones who can grow food, build shelter, tend wounds, and teach their kids to do the same. You don't need to go back in time to live like this. You just need the will to start learning, one skill at a time. Because the old ways are still the best ways. Stay safe, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next video.